everyone. This is Robin Hattersley from Campus Safety Magazine. Welcome to today's show. And today we are going to be talking about inclement weather and weather emergency preparedness. And the reason why I decided to talk about this particular topic is that I find that a lot of times weather preparedness tends to fly under the radar. And truth be told is we're much more likely to be impacted by inclement weather or bad weather like tornadoes or hurricanes or something as minor as a dust storm than we are for other things such as an active shooter attack, which, those are very tragic, but the likelihood of a campus being impacted by an active shooter is much less than, let's say, a student being struck by lightning. So that's why we want to talk about weather today. And I'm really pleased to have with us today Pat Scheckel. He's the Executive Vice President of Product Management for Singlewire. Pat, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, my very first question is, why should campuses care about the weather? And why should they keep on top of National Weather Service alerts?
Yeah, good question. So, really there's two big reasons. One, campuses owe a duty of care to their people, not just their students, staff, and so forth, but also people that might be passing through, whether that's patients, contractors, visitors, guests. So there's that duty of care. And then, of course, severe weather can have severe consequences, damage to life, limb, and property. So keeping on top of those alerts really allows you to then notify your own people and those to which you owe a duty of care.
Now, we always hear about maybe weather problems, let's say in the Midwest or in the Southeast, because maybe they're being impacted by tornadoes, or in the Southeast, hurricanes. So should certain parts of the country be more concerned about weather alerts, or should everybody be aware of the threat of inclement weather?
I think weather alerts have severity and a reason to be informed just about everywhere. I mean, certainly there are certain types of weather that are more common in different parts of the country. But you see, just this winter, you see, the debilitating snow in Seattle and in parts of the South. And you see things like flash flooding happening in parts of the North that normally wouldn't get that in the winter because of some of the rain that falls on top of the snow and ice. So those are just a couple of examples, but you see all sorts of things, the wildfires out west and so on, where every part of the country has some sort of weather, and increasingly you're seeing a bit of a mashup where parts of the country that didn't have such common weather events are now having those. So I think it's important to stay on top of it for everybody.
So maybe you can just talk about the various types of weather that we need to be concerned about. And we're not just talking about schools and universities, we're also talking about hospitals. So, okay, tornadoes and hurricanes, those are the most obvious. What are some of the maybe less obvious forms of weather that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, so certainly wildfires, severe weather with snow, ice, blowing snow. Just this week we had a 130-car pileup where I'm based here in Wisconsin, even though we should be used to snow. Visibility was instantly reduced to zero. And that, for a hospital campus, that's going to produce a mass casualty event. So, those things are tied together when you think about, severe weather and mass casualty for healthcare organizations. But even things like, even though you wouldn't consider earthquakes to be weather per se, they function very much like weather. And so now we have the ability to do early warning of earthquake notification for the 3 states on the West Coast. So when you look at it, there are going to be different things that pop up around the country. Tornadoes are probably the scariest when it comes up because of just the severity and just the lack of notice in terms of time. They come up very quickly and they can change a direction. But wildfires in the West really have many of the same characteristics. The fact that a fire is out there is known, but that it is broken containment and is now moving very quickly, like we saw with the campfire. I mean, those are things that are not all that common, and so I think it's very important to have notification on top of that.
I would also think things like lightning, because maybe there's a rainstorm coming and maybe there's a threat of lightning, and if you've got an outdoor activity, you need to be aware of that threat as well, correct?
Yeah, that's a great point. You see that there are lightning detection systems out there that are, you certainly see those on golf courses, but you're seeing them increasingly on open area playing fields where schools want to notify kids and staff that are participating in extracurricular activities. Sure.
Now, what about seasonal threats? I know we always talk about like tornadoes, like spring and fall, or tornado season, or hurricane season is June 1st to November 1st. Out here in California, we say, well, wildfire season is August through October, maybe the beginning of November. Should maybe, like the Southeast, okay, well, it's January, so we don't really need to worry about tornadoes, do we? Or do they need to worry about them? Should there be year-round awareness, or can they pretty much just focus on, the most common times that like a tornado or a dust storm or lightning strikes hit?
I mean, certainly there's seasonality to weather. We're seeing the kind of lengthening of that seasonality in some parts of the country for some parts of weather events. I think the idea that you're coming up on tornado season right now in the South and in the Plains area is a reason to do things like fine-tuning the content of your message templates and testing all the different notification components, different communication methods of your overall mass notification system. I think those are reasons to do that. You can't always be at DEFCON 5, but it's certainly important to do that testing, to test your processes and so forth, regardless of the time of the year and the seasonality, because you might not be thinking about tornadoes in December. Other things can pop up, like flash flooding and so forth.
And are there some common misunderstandings about weather emergencies and preparedness that you think our audience needs to know about?
Yeah, one of the trends that we've seen is that people have had this assumption that you just need to tell people about the weather and that they will know what to do. But increasingly, we're seeing that organizations, campuses are getting much more deliberate about what they're telling people to do next. And I think that's important because you think about, snow events in Seattle, people often aren't used to what do they do next, or you have a lot of people that on your campus that are transient and they're visiting from other parts of the country or even other parts of the world in the case of healthcare organizations and universities and so forth. And they may never have experienced a blizzard, a wildfire, a tornado, and they don't really know what to do. If you're in Southeast Asia and they say tsunami, you might not know to run away from the beach. And similarly, if you say that there's a tornado coming, you might not know that means shelter in place and not run out into the open. So people are getting much more prescriptive about exactly what action should be taken next. And I think that's a positive trend.
Great. Well, Pat, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. And for more information about Singlewire.com, what's your website, Pat?
Yep, it's www.singlewire.com.
Great. Thank you, Pat.